I hope everyone's doing good today. So it's a November day in Pennsylvania, and come out here to hike on the Quehanna Wild Area. We had some snow, just a dusting, but in some areas it's quite a bit. It's weird. And it is currently hunting season in Pennsylvania. So I encourage anybody who's out and about walking around to take the proper precautions. Hunters wear orange, so should you. Officially, it was not the Quehanna Wild Area until about 1965. Prior to that,
in the year 1784,
it was Iroquois and Susquehannock Native American country. So, indigenous lands, and the government purchased, tricked, stole, however we want to word it anymore, but it became land of Pennsylvania state. This area in particular was logged very heavily in the 19th and early 20th century to the point where it became known as the Pennsylvania Desert.
And this is one of the classic photos that features the clear-cutting desert.
And that was way off over yonder that way. It was just nothing but devastation. Flat landscape. I've seen some pictures from before, and it is just, for as far as you can see, stumps. So, that time.
This is a pic of the Dry Hollow CCC men from just down the local camp.
The CCC kicked in the 1930s and started their planting efforts and their rejuvenation and building the back roads, bridges, roadways, you name it. Local state parks, conservation offices, and some camps. And in fact, there's a CCC camp down the road way that way. And it was the Dry Hollow CCC camp. I believe that was what it was referenced as. But they rejuvenated the woods as much as they could. And then the government had this brilliant idea, and they sold some property in 1955, and they sold it to Curtis Wright, and it was strictly for nuclear energy programs. And way up here, they took a swath of land and they built a nuclear reactor and began nuclear fuel testing. And thus brings us to Reactor Road. Dip and up. So yes, this particular road is called Lost Run Road. And you can park on Lost Run Road. There are many hiking trails off of it down that way where we parked. But you can park on it. And you can walk Lost Run until it turns into Reactor Road right here.
The nuclear reactor was part of Dwight Eisenhower's Atoms for Peace policy. Not exactly a small reactor, it was officially built in 1958 and discontinued in 1960 already. Signed the ownership over to Penn State and sold part to Huron Foam Company.
And that's where we're at. So, Reactor Road was indeed a nuclear reactor up here. And it was scarily, it was only active from 1955 when they broke ground and started building stuff, and then they were already done and quit the program by 1960. So you're talking about less than 5 years that it took them to virtually destroy an entire area for many, many years. And by that I mean they dumped their contamination. They dumped metals, 55-gallon drums of waste, and they dumped it on local areas that are now known as Lincoln Farm, I think Ardell Road. So some various places in the area they dumped these, dug big pits and buried them. And they only became aware of some of the areas after wildlife, such as bears, dug up these 55-gallon drums. So it began a massive effort and a super fun project to clean up the Quehanna Wild Area. So now the Quehanna Wild Area is composed of a circle, and there's a Wyckoff run wild area that way, and there's a Marion Brooks area that way. Marion Brooks has about 1,000 acres of birch trees, and now those birches are actually probably coming to their peak of their lifespan. Can't remember the exact year that they were planted, but you know, trees do have a lifespan, and I do notice that area is starting to be, you know, final succession of some pine trees.
Apologize for the horrible picture quality, but these birches were planted in 1975, and birch trees do have a lifespan of 60 to 70 years.
Coming up in there, so the original pines are coming back. So just an interesting side note. They began this giant super fun project. But before they ever did that, this nuclear reactor changed hands, and all the buildings down here changed hands, and the facilities changed hands multiple times. Multiple companies, including Permagrain, who made flooring, and they used, you know, the strontium and other stuff to make more durable, lasting flooring and tiles, and there was just absolute toxic pollution everywhere. So when this was all done, they had to come in here and clean it. And I remember in the 90s coming up here and seeing the guys walking around in their white spacesuits as they were cleaning the area, and a lot of the items were hauled out. And I think, you know, most likely a lot of this stuff was buried deeply as well, but a lot of the stuff was hauled out of the area. So much earth. And what they're left with is a giant empty field up here. And we're going to get up there eventually. So the field is where the nuclear reactor was. The nuclear reactor also had, just for the record, they tested nuclear fueled engines. And I believe they deny ever using nuclear fuel as part of the engine testing, but I'm almost positive that they did use it. But there's two bunkers way back out road.
Here in this overview, you can see Reactor Road, as well as the jet engine test cells, one to the north and one to the south. And these two jet engine test cells are what we refer to as the bunkers.
Those bunkers are accessible by walking to them also. They were supposed to be bat houses for bat preservation, but people trashed them like idiots that they are. And currently, I'm not sure what they're going to do with them. I wish they would turn them into a bat habitat so it was getting some use out of it. And maybe enforce it this time, keep an eye on things. You know, if people get in there and start trashing it, trash them, people. But this is a frequent sportsman's area now, so a lot of hunting. There's some fishing streams down below, and some of the actual native trout can be found in some of those streams. Are they radioactive? I'm not sure. Maybe they glow, easy to catch at night. No, that's nonsense, but anyway. The two bunkers back there you can access at any time. You can walk up and look at. I walked up and looked at them before they were ever turned into the bat habitats the first time. I actually have some chunks of the glass that was used. It's like good foot thick glass used in the bunkers for observation as they would rev up the engines for testing until they basically exploded or, you know, were successful. But I have some glass from those original bunkers.
These are a few pictures of the east and west test cells. And there's the cooling pond on one. We can see a bunker in the other. And then some mounting concrete where they'd seat the engines for testing.
And I do have my kids with me today. And they are really actually enjoying this, and they're all bundled up, looking cute, being good. You see my daughter's sweatshirt, it's tight. So what have we learned? We've learned that reactor road is up here and there's continuous contamination, and the contamination was hidden, and waste was buried in farms and pits and trench holes that they dug, and then it was found and cleaned up and hauled off and buried elsewhere to pollute another place probably. So that's what we learned so far. And we have learned that this is Elk County. It also covers part of Cameron County.
Clearfield County as well.
Now I'm back with you. I had to make sure my doggies' jackets were bundled up. Is the sleet, ice, whatever it is coming down harder now. So I wanted to introduce you to the area. Whenever you get up here, hopefully we can see some of the field, which is normally wide open. And I'm going to show you the wide field where the nuclear reactor, the buildings, the various businesses that went through there over the years. They included Permagrain and other companies that just continued the terrible habit of pollution and not disposing of things properly, including an area up near the main road where they stripped some wires to clean wiring off, and when they did so, they burnt them. They figured the quickest way for them to clear the plastic coating off them was to burn them, and it of course polluted that entire area. Additionally, other interesting features of this area, we have the two former jet engine bunkers. We have the Marion Brooks Birch Tree Memorial Forest down there, which you can go hiking on. You have numerous other hiking trails throughout here. You have a Beaver Impoundment Dam area, and it is really nice. It has a hiking path going back to it. It also has a full enclosure which allows you to do observation of the area, and it's a very nice shelter. In fact, I would go skiing up here with my dog. Would often stop in there, cook up something to eat afterward, and that was always fun. You also have the Wyckoff Run area with a very nice Wyckoff Run stream, which is good for fishing. You have the Quehanna Trail, which is about 70 to 80 mile loop, and it actually circles all the way through this area. You have Table Falls. Table Falls is just a tiny waterfall, which is probably barely running because we haven't had very much water this season.
Just a couple pictures of Table Falls, and these are from September of 2023. These are very small and picturesque for the local scene, but it is a nice side stop if you want to get some cool pictures.
Mosquito Creek, excellent for trout fishing. You have the Medix Hotel down the road with some good food and polar plunges in the wintertime in the neighboring Medix Run. So you got a lot going on up here. It's a great nature area, very big for snowmobiles in the wintertime. There's a lot of rattlesnakes in the summertime. There's also Piper is nearby. Piper was also active at the time of the cleanup, and Piper was as in Piper airplanes. So they made parts and pieces as well. But there's nothing left as far as buildings up here for where the nuclear plant was. So they cleaned it all up. There is a couple foundations on the right up in the woods. There is a pond, which is way down in the back, which is probably a water containment that they put in during all the work. But that particular pond is unique. It sits down in there, and off the back of it, it does run over a runway. And there are some strange pipes that are leading up and out of the ground up there. And I found them a couple of winters ago. And when I found them, they're probably up off the ground 20 to 30 foot, and the water gushes up and out constantly. No matter when I walk back there, the water gushes. So it's very unique. It's interesting. It's like, I'd like to, get an idea of why, who, what, why, where, what's going on, where's that water coming from? Obviously, being pushed up. But definitely interesting. The amount of bear scat that is found on Reactor Road is beyond belief. And of all the times I've been down Reactor Road, which is quite a few, I have never saw a bear back here. But the amount of bear scat, I've come down through here, looked around the field, on my way back, found fresh scat. So, I mean, it's definitely, they're definitely making their way through here. It's just, I've never run into anything. One cool thing I did run into down by the pond one time, probably about 10 years ago now, I was poking around and I was like, walking the edges, and I was like, oh, cool. So there's a pond down here. So I went down there, started poking around, checking around the area around the pond, and there was a piece of debris face down, and it was on the edge of the woods. And I remember as I went down there, I was like, oh, wonder what that is. And I pried it up with my leg, and it actually was a sign that said permagreen on it. So all of the signs had been taken out of here because everything had been covered with pollution and radioactive. So I was always like, that was interesting that I found that down there. It was funny to look back on. Here we're coming up to the field.
This is a good time to say thank you for watching our video, and if you like us, please give a like and comment and subscribe for more content.
So we are now on the Curtis Wright reactor site, rather the former site of the Curtis Wright nuclear reactor. And this is the cleanup. Lots of field. I'm here with my two dogs. We have Nessie and we have Timber. Timber is an aging shepherd mix. So he is a mix of husky, collie, Akita, Australian shepherd, blue tick, healer mix. He's got it all. How do I know what he's mixed with? Well, one night, you know how you hear people say they did some drunk eBay buying? Well, one night I took my medication, stayed up a little too late, and purchased a Wisdom DNA kit for my dog. And that's the rest of the story. So, got the results and was like, hey, look, I got a DNA test for my dog. Didn't even know I had it coming in the mail. So I did the DNA test and boom. Found out he is a mix of everything. Everything that's good. Everything that's good in a rescue dog that you could ever want. So this is the far realm, far deep corner. Usually this area is so marshy that, I mean, it's marshy now, but it is usually so sloppy that you have to have some pretty beefy boots on, otherwise you're gonna get soaked. So, you know, I'm getting wet right now, but it's not half as bad as it used to be. So down here, we have the reactor where it was. And I can only imagine that they built this water containment area over here. And the water catchment area, whatever you want to call it. So we had that over here. So the water has been so low this year that we have very, very poor drainage this year, or not drainage, very poor rain. And contrary to what this sloshing back there sounded like, we just got rain within the recent several days, but before that we have not had rain forever. We're going to make our way to the back of this catchment area, and I want to see if I can show you some pipes that I found here a couple years ago. I'm going to pause this so I can walk. So this is below the pond, and this is the pipe structure I was talking about. Now, when the water is flowing very, very well, it's usually gushing out of there, and we have had no rainfall this year. It's been a very bad year, and the water's still flowing out of there. Try this again at the bottom here. There's a open and close. So turn the, crank it on or off. The water flowing out of the pond plus water flowing out of this. I don't know what it is, peeps. If anybody here, kind of has an idea of why this would be here. I mean, there's obvious reasons, of course, that people will say, but recall that this is a former nuclear reactor up here, and a water containment pond, and then we have this pipe that comes up out of the ground and flows steady. There's actually another valve on the other side of it too, so there's a couple valves. This creek here runs all the way down the bottom, and it runs into some really good trout fishing streams. So, all right. It was difficult getting down in here without getting my dogs in thorn bushes. So I'm going to pick my way back up through here and keep them jagger free. So I see a lot of people come down here to the former site, reactor site, and do some videoing and filming. But I haven't seen a whole lot of people cover the pond area, and I've always thought the pond area was interesting just because it has that pipe that comes up out of the ground, and good pressurized water at all times. So if anybody has any thoughts on what that was used for, what it's being used for, is it being used maybe for monitoring of the surface water, for pollutants, any ideas, toss them in the comments. And it's a nice little walk to come down through here.
And that is that, folks, for our walk for the day. So let me know what you think in the comments. And thank you very much once again for watching, and enjoy these last couple pictures that are of the Quehanna Wild Area.